Hello, and thanks for checking out Missed Meals and Cold Coffee. I'm Chef Lethal, and I've had some mild success on the internet as a live streamer, so I thought I'd bring those talents and my own life experiences to chat with you about parenthood. I'll cover topics ranging from infertility to the adoption process, while hopefully having some fun in the meantime. Now, before we get into the episode, my legal team has prepared the following disclaimer.
This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Any medical advice or information given by the host, Chef Lethal, or any of his guests should not be taken seriously or acted upon without the express consent of an actual medical professional. Please call your doctor if you experience an erection lasting longer than 4 hours, as this may be an unintended side effect. Please follow Chef Lethal on Twitter at Chef Lethal Plays and on Twitch at twitch.tv/Chef Lethal Plays.
Now, with that out of the way, on to the show. Hello. Welcome back to another podcast episode of Missed Meals and Cold Coffee. I am, of course, the host here, Chef Lethal, and you have the pleasure of listening to my voice and my voice alone for the next 30 to 60 minutes. We'll go with that. The episodes lately have been stretching a little longer, closer to the hour mark, which is a little bit longer than I had originally planned for. But hey, as long as I got topics to talk about, I got topics to talk about. So we're going to go with it. One thing I want to mention, I want to get this off my chest. And I know I used a joke last time to describe something coming off of my chest. And I felt like that joke was amazing and no one responded to that. And that makes me very upset. Before I get into the normal housekeeping caveats, stuff like that, if you ever watch or listen to like a radio show, you wouldn't really watch a radio show, but watch especially like the late night talk shows back when they used to have them like in studio and everything was kind of normal. And even on the radio stations, when they have guests and stuff, the hosts are always like, "All right, we got a great show planned for you today." Like, of course you do. You're not gonna say, "All right, our show is going to be mediocre today," or, our next guest is whatever. They're always so excited about it. And it's just like, why even say anything? Why even have to qualify your show as, "We've got a great one for you today"? Obviously, you're going to say that. You're the host. Oops, sorry. You're the host. It's your show. Of course you're going to say that. I'm not going to start up the podcast and be like, "All right, guys, we've got a great show planned for you today," because I think they're all great. I wrote them. I'm speaking them. It's me. I think they're amazing. Now, truth be told, I do have my own moments where I feel like it's not so good, but that's completely separate. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, or if you're live on Twitch, I didn't do any promotion for this stream. I just wanted to get live to record this episode because I am now kind of behind, so I got to get kind of caught back up. So while it has only been a week for you since the episode last aired, it's probably been 2 weeks for me, and that is it's a long time. A lot has happened here in the Lethal household since I last recorded, so I'm kind of getting my bearings back with the recording situation. That being said, of course, our up top housekeeping and caveats: follow my social media accounts, darn it. I beg you. I beg of you. Twitter.com/Chef Lethal Plays, Instagram Chef Lethal Plays. Join the Discord server if you want to chat with us. Discord.gg/Lethal Gastropub. This is on YouTube, on Twitch. Just look up Chef Lethal Play. Honestly, probably if you just go to google.com or yahoo.com or webcrawler.com and searched for Chef Lethal Plays, you'll probably find all of my stuff. You may find some stuff I don't advertise, but that's a different story. That's a different podcast. If you want to support the show, the best way you could support the show, if you enjoy what you're listening to or watching, for those of you watching, the best way you can support the show is to send me $100. I'm kidding, but not really. But of course I'm kidding. Don't do that. Would be to tell a friend or tell somebody, share it on your social accounts. If you're enjoying the show, if there's a particular episode that really, hits you and you feel like people that might be interested, hit the share button, post about it to your, Twitter notebook or whatever they call it, and you'll be good. And that would mean the world to me. There's also Ko-fi.com where you can throw me $1 if you feel so inclined, but don't do that either. Okay, getting into today's episode, of course, I'm going to be using the pronouns that are appropriate for my family situation. So I am a man, my wife is a woman. I will be using he and she, and she is my wife. I will be using husband and wife terminology for everything, because that's what my life is. And if you're offended by that, keep listening, but turn it on mute. Don't listen. I need the clicks. Let's see, what else was I going to say about that? I think that's probably about it. Today is a continuation from last week. Last week we talked about the birthing, the hospital experience up to the moment of birth, and I think I left off right as my daughter was being born. So here we go. So up until that point, now I got to get my mind back in that mindset, because being in the delivery room was weird. It was surreal. There was so much going on, and if you stop paying attention for just a few minutes, like, anything could change, whether it's within the actual labor process or just, doctors coming in, nurses telling you things and you got to keep track of. It's a lot of information. So up until the point where Mrs. Lethal was like pushing giving birth, we're exhausted at this point. We've pretty much been awake for 24 hours or so. Mrs. Lethal hadn't been able to eat. They as soon as like 24 hours or so, there's a certain point where they say, okay, you're not allowed to eat anymore, because they want you to be kind of empty for the baby coming out. So we're exhausted. In the labor room, there's really nowhere for me to rest. I mean, there's this antiquity, and there's an old ass chair in the labor room that's super uncomfortable. And, Mrs. Lethal's laying in the hospital bed, constantly being checked up on. She's uncomfortable as anything else can be. And there's no situation where and plus she's giving birth. She's having contractions. There's no sleeping through that. So we're exhausted. We're anxious. Part of that is because we were so exhausted. You ever get so tired that your nerves start kind of going, and that's how we were. We're just like ready. We're ready. We were at this point. It had been 9 months. We'd worked through the entire stages of what I, for lack of a better term, the stages of grief. But we're at this point, and we're staring down the barrel of our baby coming out, which is really, really a bad way of putting that. And I wish I could take that. I'll cut that out in post. And just a quick side note: Rap Hack checking in on Twitch. What's going on? Antiquated. Yes, that is the word I was looking for, and I am on hydrocodone right now, so that is why I did not think of it. That is my only excuse. I will not be taking questions at this time. Thank you for being here. I didn't announce this stream at all. Rap Hack's a real one. So we're down to the wire, right? So Mrs. Lethal's pushing. It's like, and I said last week how quick it went from, oh, I'm having contractions, to, oh, it's happening now. I also want to give a quick correction / more information from last week. I'm pretty sure last week I was talking about epidurals. There are two types. The walking and no, I need to go back even further than that, talking about being induced. The medicine they use is called tramadol. I don't know why you needed to know that, but I thought of it and I needed to get it out. So there you have it. Okay, so we're in there, right? And we're going, we're pushing. I'm being a good husband. I'm holding her hand. I'm fanning her. I've got, I'm being supportive. I'm telling her, this is a big, I'm looking at the monitor that they have that shows like her contraction levels and everything. And I'm telling her like, this is a good one, push, and the doctor's yelling at her, everything's happening. And then boom, baby's out. And all was right in the world. Now, up until probably 2 to 3 weeks before this day, September 24th, I had been on the fence about, did I want to cut the umbilical cord? I know there's, you do it. That's the thing. It has to get cut. And traditionally it's the husband that does it. But man, I was like, kind of grossed out by the thought of it. And then as we get closer, I was like, well, I mean, it's the least I could do. That was kind of my attitude going into it. It was like, it's the least I can do. I mean, my wife's pushing the thing out, so I may as well at least cut the cord. We got rid of cable, might as well cut. Anyway, that was a bad joke. So I saw this quote, and I'm going to butcher the quote because I don't remember it exactly, but the essence of the quote was, during pregnancy and the birthing process, the woman is who brings the life into the world, and it's the father's job to cut them free. And then I read that you can kind of also flip that to when they get married, like in my case, my daughter, I think it speaks higher to having a daughter, because, you cut to set her free into the world. And then, when she gets married, traditionally it's the bride with her dad, walking her down and formally, her dad giving her up to her husband, in the traditional sense. Obviously, by the time my daughter gets married, if she gets married, woke culture 2045, I don't know what, anyway, who knows what's going to happen then, but that's how it would happen. So I saw that and I said, okay, yeah, I have to cut the cord. There's no question now. So I did it. So she pops out, and the nurse was right there. She's, okay, are you cutting the umbilical cord? I said, absolutely I am. So I grabbed the scissor thingies. I just went into job mode, and I said, I have a job to do. I'm going to do it. Previously I had mused about saying some witty quip about like, and with this cut I forth set you free, or some stupid thing, but I did not, because that would have been really dumb. I already had my hair back, like in a hairband, not like a hairband, but like a sweatband. So I had like this weird poof thing happening, and they took pictures. I looked like a complete moron, but I didn't care. I don't care, because I had just witnessed the birth of my daughter, and I just set her free. And I'm not even exaggerating when I tell you, the instant I laid eyes on her, I fell in love with this child. Immediately. There was no question. Any thought that I had from 9 months prior about, are we even going to have this? Is this the right thing to do? Oh my God, my life is going to never be the same. It's going to be the worst. I can't believe it. We're having a baby. I looked at this girl, and I immediately thought, I would do anything for this child. I love her so dearly. And it's true. I wish I could even say I was exaggerating a tiny bit. I still feel this way. Like, it was immediate. I can't explain it. The only thing I can try to say is that it's the genetic link. And I don't know. It was just a beautiful moment. And I mean, when I say, I said to myself in my inner monologue, I will do anything to protect this child. I will do anything for her. So like in that moment, I had cut the cord, and they're about to hand her off to, they show me, obviously I cut the cord, and they're about to hand her off to Mrs. Lethal, because it's very important to do skin to skin as soon as the birth is completed as possible. This little girl could have turned to me, looked me into the windows of my soul, and said,
Father, the elder gods demand a sacrifice. 1 9-year-old boy.
And I would have just been like, okay, that's it. I have to get rid of my son, but that's okay. I mean, seriously, it was just like that. Now, clearly, family members, I would never actually get rid of him. Maybe just send him to a farm for a few weeks, but still, you have to appease the elder gods when they come calling, especially when your daughter's in the talks. So anyway, back to reality. So baby comes out, baby goes on chest immediately. It's like, baby is naked, wife is essentially naked, and skin to skin. I implore you to look up the benefits of skin to skin contact with a newborn and its parents. It's insane. there's so much cool stuff that happens, and it's not just like, oh, it's your baby and you're just feeling the warmth and whatever. No, it's like actual science happens. Not even just like right after birth. I think the effects, like the positive effects of skin to skin last, I mean, really last for a long time, but the initial like, wow, that's really cool stuff is like the first, I think, few months, maybe a couple months. And it's cool. Like you transfer antibodies to them, you regulate their body temperature, you can regulate their heartbeat, because it's just like, I'm just saying, going to say she. So like my daughter is like, in sync with my body. So if she's like freaking out, I can do skin to skin, and me being calm will help bring her down and calm her down. And it's really, really cool, and it helps calm me down too, because I'm holding my baby. It's pretty neat. So they go baby on chest for Mrs. Lethal, and I'm just standing in awe, right? Like it happened. We can breathe. I was so relieved that it's like, it's like any time that you're just jacked up on adrenaline and then the thing happens that breaks your adrenaline and then you're just exhausted afterwards. That's exactly what this is. Now it's a little different for the woman because she's still got hormones just raging through her. But like for me, I don't have those hormones. I'm just jacked up on adrenaline because I was over here being hype man. I'm being DJ Khaled for my wife trying to push his baby out. So I'm exhausted from that, but it's nothing in regards to like how she was feeling. One thing that you always hear about when babies are being born is that they might be born with a cone head, and that is very true. I feel like our daughter's head was essentially a triangle when she came out, but within like a few hours it kind of smoothed away. She had a little bit of a cone for probably, I don't know, maybe a day, but it smoothed out and was normal now. But it was like, whoa. But I think part of that also, for it to be so stark, was because we were a little early, because Mrs. Lethal had to be induced and it almost came to a C-section. So I think the triangle head, was there a character that had I'm thinking of Hey Arnold. He had a football head, not a triangle. Anyway, so after the delivery process, so Mrs. Lethal's laying on the bed. She's got baby on her chest, and there's some post-delivery medical stuff that has to happen. And she was just in so much pain because of what she had just been through. So she held our baby for as long as she could before she was just like, I can't right now. I hurt, and they're doing things, and so they looked at me and they said, hey, chef, skin to skin. And I just took my shirt off. I said, let's go. So I put, and it was such a feeling. And I know, like, there's a generation of men that would never talk about their feelings or would never admit this, but it was just so beautiful. Like every notion that I had, any feeling that I thought I would feel was way, way wrong from what actually happened, right? So when the baby comes out, they give her a brief little rub down with a towel to kind of get some of the nastiness off of her, but I'm holding her on me and she's still got, dried stuff on her. I don't know what it is. It's all fine. It's all natural, whatever. I licked it. So no. But I was just holding her, and she's so tiny. She's 7 pounds. I was like, my gosh, I've held, beef roasts heavier than this. Yes, to my family who know me very well, I just compared holding my newborn daughter to a beef roast. Yes, you can write that one down and save that for her wedding day. But anyway, it was just this really beautiful moment, and I'm holding her, and at this point, they don't know what they're doing. They're just babies, whatever. If their hands are moving, they don't know that they're moving it. But she latched onto my thumb, and I thought, okay, that's it. I'm done. My life is now dedicated to making sure this child has everything she wants in life. And it was just amazing. And I know, like, she wasn't thinking, here's a thumb, I'm gonna grab it, that's my dad. But I feel like on some really deep subconscious level, she knew I was her dad, because she had heard me while she was in, still in the womb. and she just, felt something in her hand just kind of naturally closed around it. But of course, I thought it was the most amazing thing in the world. And yeah, I just kind of phased out. I was just in absolute bliss. I saw medical staff. I felt like it was one of those montages, like those super fast montages you see on medical shows, where it's like a person just like waiting in the waiting room and people are zipping out of the room. I just felt like that. I was just holding this baby, and I was just as content as can be, hoping that I don't break her or hurt her or do anything wrong, because I'd never really held a baby before that. And these people are coming in, they're checking on Mrs. Lethal, they're fixing her up, they're doing the thing, and I'm being completely ignored, by the way. No one's even saying hi to me, and I'm just sitting here with the baby. Okay, I guess this is my baby now. This is my life. So what was I gonna say? Okay, whatever. Also, I tried shushing the baby like while she was crying on me moments after being delivered, and the nurse was like, no, don't shush her, let her cry. It helps get things out, because they've been in the womb for 9 months and have been basically a fully formed baby for many weeks at that point. And there's all sorts of stuff that screaming helps clear out their lungs and everything. So let the baby cry. Okay, didn't realize that was the thing, but at this point I was just happy to have a healthy baby. And I will throw out there that our baby was born and is still completely healthy, no health issues. I have so much more like empathy or sympathy, I don't know which one, for anyone that has a child that's born with any sort of anything wrong, even just like anything, like its earlobe is just a little bit too small or something like that. Like I feel for you. I hope my story of having a completely perfectly healthy baby doesn't hurt your feelings or anything, but like we were just so blessed that this all happened as a surprise, and surprise, we have a perfectly healthy baby when we expected things to be a little bit more tumultuous. So after we were down in the labor room for a little while, kind of the nurses are coming in, they're doing tests on the baby. They give her a shot already. I think she had to get like a Hep B and like all this stuff, and then they weigh her and they measure her and they do all this stuff. And then so we were down there for a couple hours, and then I think at that point we got to order food. So we got some more of that amazingly mediocre food, which Mrs. Lethal just destroyed because it was just food at that point. It's like, it doesn't even care. She didn't even care what it tasted like. She told me, the moment I'm allowed to eat, order the food, or, find out when I'm allowed to eat and order the food so it'll be here for then. And yeah, she tore it up. And it was like, this doesn't even taste good, but I'm so hungry. That's how you know. But yeah, it had actually been 24 hours since she ate, because she'd started labor through induction at whatever time, and then they said, okay, the process is starting, so you have to stop eating. Pray that it happens quickly, because otherwise you can't eat. And that's precisely what happened, although it didn't happen very quickly. So they take us up to another room. So remember, we started in the like the pre-baby waiting room where we were being induced. So then we went down to labor and delivery to actually have the baby, and then they moved us back over to a room that was identical essentially to the waiting room, but except we were in the actual now post-labor ward, I guess, wing of the hospital, where babies are everywhere. All the women that are in there are recuperating and bonding with their babies and doing all the things. So one thing that was so frustrating about that was, yes, it was a nicer room than the first one that we were in. I felt like the first room that we had was a little bit dilapidated. This one was brighter and cleaner and nicer in general, and it was just better. Still had that same stinking Murphy bed and the same amenities. It was just nicer to be in, I guess. But man, the interruptions were unreal. So many interruptions. Like, just when you thought you could get comfortable, somebody else would be coming in to check on something. Now, granted, obviously, we have a new human in our room. We don't know what the heck we're doing. So yeah, we need all the help we can get. But it was just like, like the baby would be sleeping, or we would think be sleeping, and then they'd come in to like check her temperature. Okay, and then they'd leave. And like 15 minutes later, baby might be sleeping. They come in to check her hearing, and then they leave. And it's like always. And if they're not checking the baby, they're checking Mrs. Lethal. And there's so many people doing so many different things. It's like there's one person that does one thing. It's like that's their thing. I am the temperature taker. I am the hearing monitor. I am the vision. It's like I'm not the Vision. That's a Marvel character. But they all come in and do one thing. Now I will say that there are nurse, obviously there are just plain nurse staff. I say plain, but just generic nurse staff in there to help you, anything you need, and just being nurses. And we had some really good ones, and we had some not great ones. I wouldn't say we necessarily had a bad experience with any of the nurses we encountered, but we liked certain of them more than certain other ones. And one thing that I would like to stress to you, if you are in the process of having a baby or whatever, is ask all of the questions to all of the nurses, right? Because you may get some different insight from nurse 1, nurse B, nurse 3. You might get some different information even asking the same question, as something as simple as, how do I swaddle my baby, right? So we didn't know. I had never swaddled a baby, and now I'm a pro, and now I don't even need to do it anymore. But it's like one nurse showed us one way, and then another nurse showed us a different way, and then you look on YouTube and there's another way. So getting that out of the way. Sorry if you hear my neighbor. He decided that today is the perfect day to do yard work after it had just stormed this morning. I have a professional podcast studio here, don't you know? But yeah, and some nurses have children, some nurses don't. That would be influencing their decisions or their methods or whatever. So we're sitting in this room, exhausted, elated. I mean, everything just seemed great. We had our baby. She's healthy. We're healthy. Mrs. Lethal's fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine, right? What are we supposed to do with her? Like, it's a baby. I don't know what to do with a baby. What the heck? It's a baby. So yeah, those first few hours for sure in the room were mostly the baby sleeping. Believe it or not, the birthing experience is a very traumatic experience for them, as well as for the mother, but I mean for the baby too. You don't get to ask their opinion of it, but I apologize for the strength of the word I have to use here, but it's pretty violent for them. It's the best word I can think of it. It's not like, violent, like in the Game of Thrones sense of the word, but it's just like, they're used to just chilling in the womb, just, eating whenever they want, doing whatever, just floating around, doing the thing. And next thing you know, they're being forcefully pushed in one direction, so it's a lot for them. So they're exhausted. Generally they'll sleep for a while, right after birth. And that's the time where Mrs. Lethal and I got to just kind of breathe. Maybe it was the last time we could actually just sit down and breathe. But even in that time, nurses are coming in and bothering us and checking on us, and it's like, just leave us alone. We just had a baby, leave us alone. But we didn't know what we were doing. We still don't know what we're doing. We're just kind of making it up as we go along, which, from what I understand from the internet, is the exact right thing to do. I'm going to take this moment to take a little break, and I want to thank the sponsor of today's episode, you. Yes, that's right, you. If you are listening to this episode of Missed Meals and Cold Coffee, you are officially sponsoring this show. You may not have contributed monetarily, but your viewership actually means the world to me. Or your audioship. Your listenership? Your worship. No, not your worship. Your listening ship. If you are consuming this show, it means the world to me. I see the stats. I don't obsess over them. This is just a passion project for me. But if you are at all interested in this, and you are listening to this show, you have my immediate and immense thanks. And you are the reason why I keep doing this, which is what a sponsor is, if you think about it, right? So if like a sponsor sponsors a baseball team, it's because they want the baseball team to keep playing. So the baseball team gets the money and they keep playing. Well, you're not giving me money, you're giving me listenership, and that entices me to continue going. That was a long... Anyway, so after baby comes out, we're sitting in the room, chilling, breathing, living, wondering, panicking, I don't know. And it's like, oh, yeah, you gotta feed your baby. So there's a lot of thoughts about feeding, and the hospital that we were at, very traditional hospital, right? So like they were very against pacifiers. Like, don't even think about it. It says it even on the sheets. Like they have like sheets all in the rooms and stuff like that, and on the no pacifiers. Like, no pacifiers. Okay, we get home, you put a pacifier. You do what you want. You do what you want. I know there's like an older school line of thinking that says don't do it, and then I don't care. We're not here to talk about pacifiers, but I'm just saying, like, our hospital, very, very pro breastfeeding, very, very against pacifiers. So when you feed your... So just in relation to that, we decided to do breastfeeding. So we have lactation specialists that come in, and we have this, and we have all these people that just come in, just to make sure the baby can eat, because it's very important that the baby eats. So there are several different methodologies for feeding your baby. You can do breast milk, you can do breastfeeding, you can do expressing, pumping, whatever. You can do formula, you can do keto. No, don't do keto. Babies don't need to be on ketogenic diet. They do not need to be in ketosis. The important thing is the baby eats. That's it. Just make sure the baby eats. Make sure it eats the amount that it needs to eat, and make sure it eats the amount that it needs to eat when it needs to eat it. That's the important part. A lot of people are like, oh, formula. Formula is great nowadays. It's not like formula from the 1950s, which is basically evaporated condensed milk or whatever, or just evaporated, like they have the powder milk. It's not like that anymore. They have, I'm not even joking, they have formulas now that darn near mimic actual breast milk. Like there's a protein in breast milk called colostrum, which is like ultra nutritious for babies, right? And they've got formula that has that in it. Is it a little bit more expensive? Yes, but it's worth it, because it's your baby. You want your baby to have the best that it can, right? So whether you breastfeed, don't breastfeed, formula, it doesn't matter. Combination, hybrid, it doesn't matter. Just feed your baby. That's the important part, okay? So anyway, so everyone's still coming in. So they're checking on baby. They're checking on Mrs. Lethal. How are your things? How's everything coming together? How's your baby latching? How's your this? How's your that? And I'm just sitting there like, this is cool. Just random people coming in, seeing my naked wife. That's awesome. Fantastic. They're all medical professionals. I don't care. But it was just funny. I'm just sitting there like, this is cool. But again, at the same time, and this harkens back to a few episodes ago where I was like directly speaking to the guys, pay the freak attention. Pay attention to what they're saying, because it's so much information. So like Mrs. Lethal and I are on the same page for a lot of things, but she's got ADD and I've got ADD. So if they're hammering us with 100 pieces of information and she catches 50% and maybe I catch 50%, there's gonna be some discrepancies in what we each catch that we can put back together and then piece together, whatever is left. And so that we can work together to make sure that everything, that has been either suggested or whatever, we've got all of our bases covered. So pay attention, guys. Seriously, you're not in that room just to do I don't know, just pay attention. Take notes if you have to. Just listen. Be there. Don't just be there. Be there. One thing I thought was cool. So the baby comes out, right? And it's like their stomachs are like the size of a cherry. Think about a cherry, like a maraschino cherry that you put in a drink, a cocktail. that you can have now because you're no longer pregnant. So like our daughter would have like 3 drops, literally 3 or 4 drops of milk, and the lactation specialist would be like, "Oh, that's perfect. That's the perfect amount. She's gonna be full," and she'd be full. Like she'd go right back to sleep. Totally cool. Like, really? 3 drops? That's it. That's all they need. They have such tiny everything, really, if you think about it. Another thing I thought was pretty cool, and you kind of notice this, and then there's just certain things that are indicators of this, but just because the baby is no longer physically attached to the mother, doesn't mean they don't still have tons of hormones raging through them as well. And I never thought about that before. Why would I think about that prior to actually having a baby? But it's like this baby still got mom's, hormones coursing through her veins and regulating her temperature and regulating all these things. So then after a few days pass, things start to calm down. There are different signs. I'm not going to get into the medicine of it. But it's just really fascinating to me that like I never thought, I would never would have thought, no one told me that. I wouldn't, up until, what we're looking like 9-10 months ago, I wouldn't have even cared, but I just thought that was pretty cool. Getting into diaper talk. So prior to having my baby, I had never with an N, never changed a diaper. 35 years old, never changed a diaper. So I didn't know what the heck to do. So apparently in diaper world, there is a distinction. You don't say you don't say you have a dirty diaper unless you have got a poopy diaper. Okay. So there's a distinction between having a wet diaper and a dirty diaper. So when we go to the pediatrician, they'll ask us, how many wet diapers do you have per week? How many dirty diapers do you have per week? And diapers, buy them now. Buy all of them. But don't buy them too far ahead of time, because you don't know how many you're going to need of each size until your baby is come forth. So if you're giving gifts and you want to give somebody a box of diapers, give them future diapers. Okay? Give them futures, because that's when you need it. Because people are going to give you diapers for now. But there's going to be a day where you're looking at your last number 2 diaper, not a dirty diaper, but just like the number 2 size diaper. And it's going to be just holding on for dear life on your baby. And you're like, frick, we need diapers. And I don't want to go to Walmart right now. Oh, wait. That awesome person from our baby shower got us a box of 3s. And I put it in top of the closet. So boom, now you have a box of 3s ready to go. You don't have to go shopping. It was a weird tangent, but it's a thing, it's happened to us. Like, okay, we can squeeze her into this number 2 before we got to go to the store tomorrow and get some more 3s. It's a thing. As long as your baby, or, people have cloth diapers. There are services where you can do cloth diapers. We did not do that. We're opting for the environmentally friendly diapers. Throw out millions of diapers. Hopefully they're biodegradable. I know obviously there's biomass in there, so maybe it's okay. I have no idea. We're just contributing to capitalism or something. That's not what this podcast is about. So anyway, the first few diapers are kind of gross. I mean, like really gross. That's all I'm going to say. Look it up. Meconium. Look it up. It's all true. So then our baby, we're kind of moving the story along because I don't want to talk about poop for too long. So we're in the room, and at a certain point, we're like, okay, we're ready to go home, right? We're just waiting for the thumbs up green light to discharge from the hospital and GTFO out of there. So, and we wanted to get out of there. We had been in there for days. We'd have been in the hospital for days. Mrs. Lethal hadn't seen or felt the outside air in days. I did, because I went for walks. I was able to actually leave the premises if I needed to, but she couldn't. She'd been in there for days. So on the day that we were finally given the green light, and even then the nurses were like, we'd really recommend that you stayed this night And so this way we could just continue to monitor the baby and monitor you and make sure, because they also monitor Mrs. the wife. They monitor Mrs. Lethal for any beginning signs of PPD, postpartum depression, for those of you who don't know. And there's like questionnaires, and they give lots of paperwork about, and if you start to feel certain things, call these people, call this number, call us, get help. It's okay, it's normal. Just take care of yourself. And that's one thing I will say. Like, I know Mrs. Lethal didn't have any episodes of PPD. I didn't have any episodes of PPD. It's real for men to get it as well, although it's different. It's probably not called postpartum. Maybe it is. I have no idea. But there is a male version of that where it's like, your wife was pregnant and now she's no longer pregnant. You have a baby. And all I can say is, I'm not a doctor. Don't take any advice I give medically. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just a guy on the internet. But by golly, if you need help, get help. Talk to somebody. Call a friend. Call a therapist. Get help. Okay? There's nothing wrong with you if you have some PPD feelings. That's totally normal. You're fine. As in, you're going to be okay. Get help. Talk to somebody who can actually do some real good for you, not just some stranger on the internet with a microphone. Okay? There will be people, friends, family, well-wishers that will tell you everything's going to be okay, including myself. I just said it. But, in the moment, it's not going to be what you want to hear. I will backtrack and say that I self-diagnosed myself with post-adoption depression back in whatever year it was, 2017, after we adopted our first two. So I can relate to an extent. Obviously, it's a lot different, and everyone's experiences are different. I'm not saying that it's a one-size-fit-all. Nothing is. Not even hats that say they are. But all I'm trying to say is, if you're noticing feelings, call somebody and get some help. There's no shame in it. Do the best thing for yourself and for your baby. Anyway, back on track. Getting off of that train. Whew. I left early. So yeah, they came in and said, look, we really prefer it if you stayed an extra night so we could continue monitoring mom and the baby. And we were like, deuces, chucking up the deuces, get us out of here. And they were not really pleased with that, but they can't keep you there after you've gotten the green light. Baby was healthy. My wife was healthy. I was healthy. Not that anybody checked on me. But we had to board Lucy through this process, obviously. In case you don't know, Lucy is our dog. So I left early the day that we were being discharged, and I went out to get Lucy, and I brought us lunch. We couldn't even have lunch in peace. I forget, what did I get? I think I got a shake. I did. I got a Shake Shack, and it was so good. But the people, they wouldn't even let us sit there and eat in peace, right? Our baby was sleeping, and Mrs. Lethal and I are trying to have some semblance of a nice meal in this hospital room, and these nurses keep coming in and they're checking and they're trying to do paperwork and they're checking on her and they're asking a question. They're just talking. This one of the nurses was just talking to us. Like, I don't care what you have to say. Right? Can't you see that we're eating? It's not even like we're about to eat or we're finishing up. Like, my mouth has a hamburger in it, and you asked a question. Why are you doing this to me? Why do you hate me? She may not have actually hated it. She probably didn't hate me, but it felt like it because she was assaulting my joy. You know how infrequently I get Shake Shack? This delicious cheeseburgers. You're ruining it. Anyway, we left. We did our paperwork and we got the heck out of there. Our particular hospital has people at the door when you're leaving with your baby to make sure that your car seat is installed properly. Ours was. I did it. I'm amazing. Actually, I think they tried to fix something, and then I looked at it later, and I was like, what did these guys do? I had it right, and they made it kind of worse, so I had to refix it. I'm like, well, those guys know what they're doing, but maybe they don't. I don't know. They're supposed to be certified by the Department of Transportation. I don't know. Whatever. I'm sure there are hospitals that have that and hospitals that don't. Whatever. Just make sure your car seat is installed before you get the baby. For crying out loud. That way you're not freaking out, stressed out in the parking lot trying to install a car seat while you have a potentially screaming newborn, in your arms or your wife's arms or whatever. So after that, it's load the baby up and get the heck out of there. And we left. And that was the most careful drive home we've ever had. Normally, okay, so Mrs. Lethal makes fun of me because I drive, as she would describe, like a grandpa. I take great offense to that. I am not quite to that level, but I'm pretty careful. I follow a lot of the laws of the road that most people might. Like, I'll make a stop at a stop sign when there's nobody around, kind of thing. But I was so, and even she was like, how fast are you going? I gotta hold on, look at it. And she's the whole time she's paranoid, freaking out, looking at everyone merging on the highway around us. And she's like, oh, watch out for that guy on the left. I'm like, I know, I see him. We're both on edge, like, we just gotta get this baby home, but carefully. And so that's what we did. We got her home, and it was nuts. I apologize if some of this, there was a lot of meandering this episode during this show. I actually didn't write a lot of it down. Normally I do. I have a pretty decent outline for the show, but this one I just kind of went off of what was in the old noggin to what end. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But so we got home. Lucy was home. The cats were happy to see us until they realized we brought something else home. So we have a baby. And that was, I think, one of our very first things that we said once we got inside the house was, we have a baby. What are we supposed to do now? We still ask that question, but on that first day, it's terrifying. Like, we had already had, 2 older kids. So the funny thing is, we adopted our youngest kid when we adopted her was 3, so we missed the first 3 years. We missed all of babyhood, and we were excited about that. We're like, oh yes, we lucked out, jackpot. We missed all the diapers and the screaming and the this and the that, only to find out years later, here we are. Now what? And so the now what is the remainder of what missed meals and cold coffee is going to be. To this point, our baby, in the story of the show here, I went from my history to now the baby is in our house. So future episodes are looking like they're going to be, let me just look at my list here, kind of what to expect when your baby's at home. Items that we found that you really have to have when you're having a newborn around. Answering questions about why parents do certain things. Preparing mentally and physically for having a baby. I'm kind of excited for doing that one. Currently right now, I hate saying that phrase, currently right now. Obviously currently is right now. It's happening currently right now. We're in the tail end of sleep training. We're now 4-month-old, and I will have a whole episode dedicated to that. If you want a spoiler alert about sleep training, talk to any parent. Go reach out to any of your friends that have kids older than 4 months and ask them, how was sleep training for you? There's your spoiler alert, okay? But that's it for this week. You're going to have to wait for next week to find out what on earth we did when we brought the baby home, because we still are just trying to figure it out. As always, I am Chef Lethal, signing off here, wishing you the fullest of plates and the hottest of coffees.